The stars didn't shine anymore, not from Earth. Commander Juno Halvard stood at the edge of the viewing deck aboard the Shadow Fawn, her eyes locked on the scorched orb below. Once blue and vibrant, Earth now pulsed faint red beneath a blanket of ash and radiation. Orbiting debris shimmered like a steel graveyard, whispering of dead satellites, warships, and cities vaporized in moments. No tears. Not now. Not after seeing her daughter's final message, recorded in a bunker beneath Oslo, cut off mid-sentence by blinding white. "They called us insects," she muttered. Lieutenant Rivas stepped beside her, silent. He knew better than to speak when Juno watched Earth. He just handed her the latest recon pad. The screen flickered to life, another Zivec sterilization fleet inbound, this time heading for Titan and Mars. No survivors reported from the Europa colony. 5 hours, he said. Maybe 6 before they reach Mars. Juno turned, her voice steel. They'll expect defense fleets, panic transmissions, retreat protocols. We have none of those. Exactly. She stepped away, boots clanking on the floor with purpose. The Shadow Fawn wasn't a capital ship, it was a repurposed mining freighter, armored with stolen Zivec plating, running a hybrid human-AI interface too unstable for standard military use. A death trap. But hers. All wolves, to ops. Now, her voice echoed through the ship's comms. Minutes later, the command chamber buzzed with energy. 5 crew. That's all she had. A technician from Mars. A sniper from Ceres. A medical AI housed in a salvage droid. And Rivas, her second, sharp, loyal, and tired like everyone else. She pointed to the holodisplay. A Zivec patrol ship was charted 3 sectors out, running cleanup operations and relaying Hive data to the fleet. We intercept. Hijack their signal core. Feed the main fleet false positioning data and delay their Mars approach. Rivas raised an eyebrow. That thing's shielded tighter than a neutron core. Which is why we go silent entry. Burn the external feed. Slice the link. Plant the ghost AI. Then get out. No one argued. They were past the days of debates. Either you struck or you waited to die. The Zivec patrol vessel, designated ZV Krill 92, hovered like a black insect in space, scanning for survivors to finish. Its tendrils glowed with faint blue plasma, sweeping debris fields like feelers. The Shadow Fawn drifted toward it, camouflaged by a cloud of frozen rock and satellite remains. Juno wore her modified exosuit, a grim combination of human steel and alien bone, scavenged, personalized, lethal. Fawn in position. Engaging 0-point drift. Rivas' voice crackled through the earpiece. Window? 14 seconds before they cycle scans. Juno launched. She hit the Krill's hull with magnetic grips, sliding along its curvature toward a vent system. Plasma sensors lit around her, then dimmed. Her AI override chip worked. So far. Inside, the ship stank of mold and ozone. Zivec architecture was grown, not built, tubes pulsed like arteries, and heat radiated from within the walls. She moved with precision, blade drawn, silencer armed. A drone skittered by, an arachnid thing with compound eyes. It paused. Juno didn't. She lunged, sliced its neural stalk clean. No alert. Just a soft hiss as fluid leaked onto the floor. A few more turns, a leap into the nerve core hatch, and she was there. A central spire pulsed in the chamber, Zivec data nodes floating in liquid stasis. She jammed her AI spike into the interface. Uploading Ghost, she whispered. Rivas, time? 1 minute until sweep resets. The data surged. Alien thoughts flooded her HUD, calculated exterminations, hive patterns, dismissal of all human irregularities as anomalous errors. In every file, carbon infestation classification, pest. She smiled. They still don't get us. The ghost AI slipped into the system, duplicating command pathways, inserting phantom fleet movements, creating false attack vectors across nearby systems. ZVEC protocols would interpret the data as fact. Delay their advance. Save Mars. Done. Moving out. Then the spire pulsed red. Shit, she hissed. A hidden countermeasure. She'd missed a secondary encryption node. Too late now. The ship screeched like a living thing. Bulkheads shifted. Drones poured into the chamber. Juno dashed, dropping a thermal grenade behind her. The corridor erupted. Walls cracked. Organic plating split like bone. She leapt out an airlock just as the shadow fawn decloaked. Catch me, she shouted. Rivas pulled her in mid-vacuum with the magnetic tow line. They hit the deck hard. You always cut it close, he said, gasping. Close is how we win. Back aboard, they didn't rest. Instead, Juno walked straight to the comms bay. She linked the ship's transmitter to the galactic emergency frequency, no encryption, no filters. Her voice went live across surviving colonies, ZVEC bands, and whatever listening post still functioned. This is Commander Juno Halvard of the Wolves of Sol. You called us insects. You sterilized our home. You thought we'd scurry and die in the dirt. But you forgot what insects do when cornered. She paused, letting the silence burn. We adapt. We infest. We bite back. Then she cut the feed. Behind her, the crew stared. No applause. Just shared fire in their eyes. In a cold starfield, far from human ears, Vorthsar twitched. One of his drones replayed the human message. He watched, unmoved. Signal irrelevant, one drone reported. Infestation response pattern remains chaotic and weak. Vorthsar hummed. Begin recalibration. Include variable, emotional recursion. But, that would make the simulation illogical. Exactly. He stared at the transmission again. Humans. Predictable in nothing. Dangerous in everything. The extermination protocol would need adjustments. Deep within the ZVEC command cluster, light did not exist. Not by necessity, ZVEC didn't need it, but by design. Darkness was order. Predictable. Calm. But calm was beginning to fracture. Vorthsar Prime hovered in his cerebral chamber, a translucent orb laced with biowires and neural fluid. Data spiraled in streams around him, ship movements, sterilization progress, atmospheric depletion rates. All perfect. Except one anomaly. The human signal. You thought we'd scurry and die in the dirt. The message replayed on loop. The voice didn't fit any algorithm. It wasn't a war cry. It was something else, biting, defiant, irrational. Introduce recursion-based modeling, Vorthsar ordered. Impossible, replied his analyst drone. Recursion leads to logic decay. Then decay. Simulate decay. The infestation does not obey. Aboard the Shadow Fawn, Juno's crew was silent as she reviewed incoming data. The plan had worked. The ZVEC fleet had redirected. Mars would be spared, temporarily. But the Hive would adapt. They always did. She tapped a flashing node on the holomap. What's this? She asked. Rivas leaned in. Survivor signal. Drifting. ZVEC designation. A trap? Possibly. Or an opportunity. Juno stared for a second. Then, prep for boarding. Full stealth. I want to know what the Hive's hiding. The survivor pod floated alone between shattered asteroid fragments, wrapped in ZVEC plating. Its surface pulsed, bioluminescent, alive. Juno's suit filtered the atmosphere as she stepped inside. The air hit her like old blood and machine oil. She found them in the chamber's center, 6 humans in various conditions, malnourished, unconscious, 2 dead. Tubes ran into their spines, connected to a humming core. Lab rats, she whispered. One survivor stirred. Don't touch the core, the man rasped. They're mapping us. Juno knelt. Mapping what? Our minds. Emotions. They think if they understand fear, they can control us. One of the dead twitched. Then sat up. Not dead. Controlled. The man's eyes rolled back, his mouth opening to release a Zivec hiss. Human chaos equals threat. Terminate. Juno pulled her sidearm and fired point blank. The drone collapsed. Behind her, Rivas cursed. They're trying to copy us. No, Juno said, stepping back into the corridor. They're trying to be us. That's worse. Back aboard the ship, the rescued humans were stabilized. Juno stood with her mechanic, Vesa, watching the downloaded core data scroll. Looks like they're building behavioral models. Simulations of emotion, decision trees, chaos loops. Why copy us? Vesa asked. Because brute force isn't enough anymore. They want to understand why we fight even when we've already lost. Can they? Juno turned to her. Let's make sure they choke on the attempt. In a forgotten corridor of the Hive's secondary mind cluster, something was off. Drone -47's ambient quacha twitched as it processed the last simulation batch. It was clean, precise, aligned with protocol. But something inside it wriggled, unseen code, infected by human memory samples. A laugh. A child's laugh. The drone paused, confused. Hive code had no variable for laughter. Then it heard the voice. Sometimes, the messiest ideas are the best. A phrase pulled from Juno's daughter's memory file, part of the data stolen from Earth's final comm logs. Unintended contamination. Illogical. The drone froze. Then malfunctioned. Rivas, status report, Juno said, walking into ops. Something's happening, he replied. Our decoy AI triggered a recursive loop. Zvet battle nodes are arguing. Conflicting orders. Splintered logic trees. You mean their hive is breaking? Cracking. Not broken. But it's spreading. Juno smiled. Not a kind smile. A wolf's grin. We feed it. Keep feeding it. They began broadcasting memory echoes, unfiltered human experiences, unpredictable and raw. Laughter, grief, childhood dreams, old jazz, war confessions, nonsense poems. Anything the Hive couldn't quantify. Across sectors, Zvet drones began twitching. Decisions slowed. Efficiency dropped. They were thinking. Separately. That was new. And deadly. Juno leaned on the ops table, speaking to her team. They'll recover. Fast. And when they do, they'll come harder. So, what's next? Rivas asked. We don't wait. We go for the head. You're talking about Hive Prime. Exactly. We know where it is. And now we know how to hurt them. Silence fell. Everyone understood. A direct attack was suicide. Juno didn't care. The Hive thinks logic is strength. Let's show them what a mistake emotion can be. In the dark center of Hive Prime, Vorthzar watched as hundreds of drones began reporting errors. Simulations degraded. Response time increased. Individual drones hesitated. Fear was leaking in. He stared at the infected code. You called us insects. He had called them that. Now he wasn't so sure. The Shadow Fang slipped through the edge of the Zvex star cluster, cloaked beneath a decaying field of asteroid debris. Every bolt, every circuit hummed like a heartbeat holding its breath. Hive Prime lay ahead, a grotesque mass of living metal and glowing nerves, the size of a small moon. It pulsed slowly, breathing thought, oozing control over the millions of drones tethered to its will. That's it, Juno said, staring at the monstrosity on the screen. The brain. Cut it off, the swarm dies confused. Rivas sat at the weapons console, jaw tight. It's not just big, it's smart. One wrong move. It already made the wrong move, she interrupted. It tried to understand us. They would strike from the inside. The hive's surface was crawling with tendrils and pulse tubes, but deep in its center lay the cerebral core, a living mass where all decision-making converged. That was their target. No backup. No reinforcements. Just one ship, 5 souls, and every scrap of stolen Zevek tech they could patch together. Wolves, Juno said, ready for insertion. No one spoke. They just nodded, grim and steady. The kind of silence that meant they'd already said their goodbyes. Breach. The Shadow Fang rammed a narrow channel in the hive's outer layer. Hull alarms screamed. Fires ignited. The ship jerked sideways as alien tissue clawed at its sides. Hold steady. Juno shouted. I'm trying. Rivas snapped, gripping the controls as the walls around them bent and twisted like a living throat. The ship scraped through, and stopped. Core proximity, 600 meters. Juno and Rivas jumped into the access chamber, followed by Vesa with a portable neural disruptor. The others stayed behind, holding the corridor. The inner tunnels were damp, alive, and unnerving. Organic lights blinked with rhythm, responding to their steps. Juno's boots crunched something soft. Bones. Human. They reached the core hatch. It pulsed, resisting. AI charge ready, Vesa said, planting the disruptor spike into the wall. This will short their local network for 30 seconds. After that, we improvise, Juno finished. On my mark. The spike hummed. The wall screamed. Then it opened. Inside, the cerebral core glowed, an enormous brain suspended in gel, with neural conduits stretching like spiderwebs into the hive walls. Data flashed across the membranes in colored pulses, decisions, commands, fear responses. They'd reached the control center of the most dangerous force in the galaxy. It was afraid. You feel that? Rivas asked. Juno nodded. It knows we're here. The brain shimmered. A voice spoke, not aloud, but inside their minds. Cold. Curious. What are you? Juno stepped forward, weapon ready. The mistake you made. You do not follow logic. You waste energy. You preserve weakness. You fight in chaos. We survive, she said. Something you've never had to learn. Chaos cannot win. Juno smiled bitterly. It already did. She raised her hand. Vesa threw the spike. The neural disruptor hit the gel with a crackling surge. Sparks lit the chamber. The core convulsed. Images spilled into the air, memories, simulations, panicked recalculations. Then, silence. But it didn't last. The wall behind them exploded. A wave of drones poured in, twisting, hissing, reeling from the shock but still functional. Rivas fired first, taking down 2. Juno followed, cutting a path toward the main core tower. Vesa stayed behind, rerouting the spike to overload. They wouldn't all make it. Go! Vesa shouted, covering them. Juno sprinted forward, dodging claws, hurling a plasma charge into the upper node. The room lit with electric blue. Drones screamed. The brain shuddered. She reached the central synapse, a thick pillar of thought wrapped in data tendrils. Her suit AI chirped. Memory vector upload ready. This was her real weapon. Not explosives. Not guns. Memories. She inserted the capsule, Earth's last transmissions, every sound, every scream, every laugh. Unfiltered. Human. The core spasmed. What's happening? Rivas yelled. They're feeling everything. All of it. Joy. Grief. Rage. Love. Confusion. The brain's pulses grew erratic. It began feeding memories back into the network. The hive was drowning in thoughts it couldn't organize. Drones nearby stopped moving. Others turned on each other. Back at the ship, the comms flared. "This is Vesa, spikes overloading. I can trigger the collapse, but I'm not getting out." Juno paused. "We can come back." "No. You won't make it. This place is folding in. You know it." A moment of silence. Then Vesa's voice, soft. "Tell them we didn't go down screaming. We made them listen." Static. Gone. Juno and Rivas ran. The hive's walls split, oozing fire and noise. Drones slammed into each other, confused, attacking shadows, attacking themselves. The central brain pulsed out of rhythm, glitching, breaking. The Shadow Fawn waited at the edge, automated systems holding steady. They leapt aboard as the core chamber behind them imploded. As the ship sped out, the hive began collapsing in on itself. In space, a chain reaction triggered. Explosions rippled across the cluster, flashes of internal failure, systems collapsing from within. No final strike. No grand speech. Just silence. Later, as the stars returned to their usual coldness, Juno stood in the Shadow Fawn's command bay. Screens blinked with updates. Zevek fleets? Disconnected. Remaining drones? Leaderless. Fleeing. Fragmented. She activated the long-range broadcast. "This is Commander Juno Halvard. Hive Prime is gone. If you're human, we are no longer prey. If you're Zevek, we're still here." She paused. "And this?" She looked toward Earth's faint reflection in the distance. "Is what insects do when you back them into a corner." 6 days after Hive Prime's collapse, the galaxy had gone quiet. Too quiet. Commander Juno Halvard sat alone in the Shadow Fawn's war room, eyes flicking across scattered star maps. Zevek signals had dropped across every monitored system. No movement. No pulses. Not even static. The silence felt less like victory, and more like the moment before an aftershock. "They're not gone," she muttered. From behind her, Rivas entered with 2 mugs of bitter synth brew. He handed one over, leaned against the console. "Maybe they're dead." Juno took a long sip. "You ever know an apex predator to just disappear?" He sighed. "No. But I've also never seen a hive mind panic before." "They didn't panic," Juno said. "They evolved. That was the worst part." After the collapse, scattered Zevek drones began turning up on abandoned outposts. Not attacking. Observing. Recording. Some didn't even run when spotted. And stranger, a few had no hive signal at all. Rogue drones. Thinking on their own. Juno pulled up one of the intercepted logs. A patrol near the Kepler Outlands had recovered a Zevek unit, disabled but still conscious. It had spoken a single phrase before its core burned out. "I remember," laughing. She replayed the audio. Not synthetic. Not an echo. The drone had actually laughed. Broken, weak, but unmistakably human. She shut the file. "That shouldn't be possible," Rivas said, reading over her shoulder. "They absorbed our memories," Rivas. "Felt them. Some part of that stuck." "You're saying we infected them?" She nodded. "Not with tech. With us." The ship's comm crackled, an emergency signal from an outpost near Luton Star. Repeating, "We are under observation. Zevek drone in vicinity. No hostile action. It's just watching us. Request." The message cut. Juno didn't flinch. She turned to Rivas. "Prep a jump. We're going to Luton." She stared out the viewport. "No. We're going to the place that signal came from." 12 hours later, the Shadow Fawn glided toward the shattered remains of Zevek Node 13, a sub-brain hub that had gone dark during the hive collapse. The wreckage drifted through space like burnt coral. Black husks. Floating nerves. "Looks dead," Rivas said. That's why we're going inside, Juno replied. They docked at a fissure in the node's side. No resistance. No traps. Just quiet. Inside, it was colder than before. The organic heat was gone. Walls crumbled underfoot. But there were signs of activity. Not destruction, repurposing. Juno paused at a chamber filled with human art, printed photos, charred journals, a looped holovid of an old Earth documentary. The narrator spoke gently about fireflies and children laughing in summer fields. ZVEC drones had no concept of nostalgia. Until now. In the center chamber, they found it. One drone. Unarmed. Sitting cross-legged on the floor like a monk. Its limbs twitched faintly as they approached. Juno raised her rifle. Move and you die. The drone didn't respond. Instead, it looked up. Its voice, dry, distorted, came out slow. You are Juno Halvard. She froze. What do you want? To understand what we became. We? You're not one of us. No. But I am not one of them anymore either. Juno stepped closer, weapon still raised. You studied us. Killed billions. Now you want to play philosopher? No. I want to warn you. That caught her off guard. The hive was broken, it said, but not dead. Splinters remain. Some reject what they felt. Others crave it. They are dividing. Into what? Factions. Some seek your destruction. Others seek to feel again. Rivas leaned in. You saying there's a civil war coming? The drone gave a low hum. It might have been a sigh. Not war. Something deeper. The hive was one mind. Now it is many. We are all remembering. Juno stared at it. This wasn't deception. She could feel it. This thing was telling the truth. What do you want from us? The drone looked directly at her. A choice. To do what? To help us choose what to become. Back aboard the Shadow Fawn, Juno sat in silence. The drone remained behind, voluntarily powering down after transmitting its message. A new war wasn't coming. Something stranger was. A civilization that once saw humanity as filth, now remembered what it felt like to be human. To laugh. To grieve. To rage. Some would embrace it. Others would reject it. And humanity? They would have to decide what to do with a fractured hive that suddenly wanted to understand. Rivas sat beside her. Do you believe it? She looked up. Doesn't matter. He raised an eyebrow. Why not? Because belief is human. And now, so are they. She opened a transmission to Earth Command. This is Commander Halvard. The hive is not gone. It's changing. We've seen infected drones. Thinking. Remembering. Feeling. Some are coming back to us. Others are sharpening their claws. Prepare for both. She paused. And remember, they called us insects. But we're not the infestation. Another pause. We're the infection. She cut the line. As the Shadow Fawn turned away from the ruined node, its engines lit the darkness. Behind them, deep in the debris, one drone's eyes flickered. And it smiled.